Okay, I've been thinking about doing this video for a while. And the reason I want to do this video is it's kind of a placement in the birth chart that I think gets left out more than it should. I think this is one of those secret positions in your birth chart where if you unlock it, you really could understand why you're kind of feared. Okay, and I'm going to use myself as an example. So I want to talk about kind of the underworld of your birth chart. It's kind of a dark placement. Everyone has it. It is called Lilith. Okay, so once again, go to astro.com. I always do whole signs. This isn't really a planet. Lilith is more of like a myth. It's a shadow. Okay. I personally tend to think that it can even affect women more due to Lilith, like biblically, but I don't know. I just think it's fascinating. So this is called Black Moon Lilith in your birth chart. And I think it's really important that people understand this aspect because I really think it could be a key to your life because it's been a key for mine. So Black Moon Lilith sort of represents raw, unfiltered, untamed feminine energy. So this can be an occurrence in a male birth chart too. It doesn't matter your gender. She sort of represents sexuality without apology. She represents rebellion, not willing to compromise, intuition without censorship. She's the part of you in your chart that basically refuses to be dominated. Okay, especially by things like society, the opposite sex. If you're a woman, men, right? You don't want to be dominated by institutions. It is ultimate dark feminine energy. She is literally the placement in your chart, the witch that they couldn't burn. Okay, and when she's strong in your chart, like my Lilith placement is very strong, it makes people very uncomfortable. Okay, can you believe I was sick with Rona, COVID, October 1st through the 10th, and I'm still coughing? Like, this version of it will not let go. It's been miserable. I'm so sick of it. I even went to the doctor to see if I could get antibiotics because I'm not testing positive for it, but I'm just coughing. And my doctor was like, yeah, unfortunately, that's a side effect. She was like, the cough could last for a month. I'm like, great. So anyway, let's go back to Lilith. When she's in a position in your chart, whether it's with aspects or a certain house, it can make people feel extremely uncomfortable, okay? I'm going to tell you about mine because I want to paint you a picture, and then I'll go through and talk about where it is in your chart and like how it could affect you, okay? But I need you to see it in my chart so that you understand why I think it's important for you to find yours, okay? So I've talked about this before. I have Lilith in the 10th house, okay? The 10th house is your public career. It's your public persona. I have Lilith conjunct my Mercury, my Venus, my part of fortune. Everything is in my 10th house, okay? It's also the 10th house of Aries, just for the record. Aries is known for extreme rebellion, right? And Aries in the 10th house is like, you know, that's the public appearance of me. People see me as fiery, a trailblazer, not willing to back down, which aligns with everything in my paranormal career, right? So the 10th house represents career, reputation, legacy. Think of it as it's your public stage and what the world sees on the outside. Lilith here, so my Lilith in the 10th house says, the world will see me in my raw truth and they will either worship me or exile me. Like, it is literally the public witch, the feared feminine placement, okay? But here's the problem with the 10th house. And, you know, I've had this problem my whole life. Because you're in the 10th house and because it's your public outward persona, with Lilith there, people will project on you big time, okay? They see your power and they either represent it or see it as arrogance or they see it as weakness, which a lot of the producers in the industry somehow saw me as weak, right? Or a weak feminine or an exchange. Like, she needs to give her Lilith over sex in order to get signed, right? They see your charisma and think she's strong. How do I manipulate it? They see your sensuality, which I'm very comfortable in my skin. That doesn't mean I'm showing everything. They just see my sensuality and they automatically think it's an invitation. And I've had this problem my whole life. And it's crazy because like right now I'm wearing a hoodie and like you guys probably see me what I'm always wearing, which is like shirts up to here, long sleeve. Okay, that's a wound that I need to work on. Okay, and it's from my Lilith placement. And the wound is basically when I was younger and even in my early 20s, my mom noticed the attention that I was getting. I was not dressing provocative. My mom wouldn't have allowed that, okay? But when Lilith is in the 10th house, I could put a sack over my head and people would still see me, okay? And she would kind of body shame me. I don't think she really meant to. I think it was a protective parenting role to keep me safe, like as a 16-year-old. I don't blame her. She realized I was getting attention from older men, which, no, it's not appropriate, but we also understand the world that we live in. So I was kind of body shamed into hiding my body. And that's when she said no tattoos. You know, my parents were like strict no tattoos. Like, I was not allowed to step into my power or sensuality in any capacity because I would have been even more ashamed for it. My parents thought that if I dressed provocatively or, you know, got tattoos, that would be an invite. They were worried because I was already obtaining so much attention from the outside world, right? Once again, people publicly see Lilith in the 10th house as sensuality and assume it's an invitation in because it's your public persona, okay? And I mean, I could talk for days about this placement. Like, I feel like Lilith in the 10th house has to be one of the hard ones. It's actually a placement for a lot of sex workers. I've said this before. Sometimes I wonder if that's like the producers reading me, although they're just like misogynistic in general, but you know, here's another example. I was with this guy named Grant when I was younger, in love with him, in love with this guy. We tried to make it work and it never worked, okay? We'd been together for like a year. He took me to his parents' house it was his mother, his biological mom, and his stepdad in Montana, okay? I met his stepfather for like maybe 5 minutes with him. That was the only interaction we had. His stepdad told his mother that I flirted with him and flashed him, which, by the way, is extreme. I would never do. I've never done that, okay? And the mom believed him and basically said I was never allowed back at the house again. And then it got back to his biological father and stepmom who lived in Colorado. And his stepmom was Puerto Rican, and she told me that all blonde girls were whores and I wasn't allowed back in her house either, because she was scared I was going to hit on his dad. And I met all of these people like for a very minimally short amount of time. Once again, you're either loved and worshipped or you're absolutely hated and feared, to a point where I have always had my sexuality like used as a weapon against me. Look at paranormal, look at production, right? I have had women that are friends that will say stuff like we've been friends for a year or whatever. This has happened multiple times. And after a year, they will say, well, I thought you had a crush on me. Do you want to date me? I'm like, I'm straight. What are you talking about? No, I'm not interested. I have never said anything inappropriate in this manner. This is how they're sort of reading my energy. I also have another really weird placement, which is Neptune, which is a dreamy placement. And my Neptune is in the 7th house, which means, and the 7th house is relationships, which means that friends, family, loved ones, friends especially, or lovers will put me on a pedestal, and sometimes they'll get like a weird like fantasy in their mind of what I am versus what I'm actually in reality. So I've had a lot of friends daydream of being in relationships with me. This just happened again recently. I had a friend that I had to cut off in July. It was really sad. It was really hard. We were friends for like 8 years. I considered her literally a sister. She had my back as far as I thought, but there were some reciprocity issues. And it sucked saying goodbye, but I knew I couldn't keep tolerating what was happening. So I wrote her like a text and said, this is why we got to go our own separate ways. This time it's over. And then she started telling like mutual friends that I was a lesbian. My sexuality has always, and by the way, I've only ever been with men. Not that I need to announce that I like the D, but just in case you were wondering, I like the D. But my sexuality has always been used against me. And the crazy part, that friend knew that. She knows about my placement. And then after the friendship ended, she decided to use it against me again. So I've always had this happen. Just weird stuff. So projection on the 10th house sucks. Like you could literally, I've learned, you could walk into a room with a turtleneck and still be called seductive. Like you'll be considered you're like seducing someone. And that's something I need to work on, because that's the flip side of Lilith, is taking your power back, right? I have learned now that, in my 30s, there's nothing I can do about the way people perceive me, so I might as well just start living who I am. I guess another way to put it is like Lilith has like an etheric scent of taboo that people can sense on you. Now, having Lilith conjunct my Mercury makes it even worse, because I have a razor sharp tongue, right? I'm very intelligent. I think ahead. I think when people speak, I can respond extremely quickly. A lot of my friends think I should have been an attorney because I can I know lingo of, you know, legality in film, and I'm really smart with that. A lot of people said I should have been an agent in the industry. I can be extremely persuasive. I don't use it for bad though, but it can be dangerous, right? If I were to use it for bad. And people know that. People know I'm highly intelligent and that I think quickly. And I'm also really good at playing devil's advocate. I can look at different sides of something. And the scarier part is I do it very calm and composed. I do not react. I don't get angry. I don't stomp around. So that combination with Lilith is they don't want to see through me. They don't want me to see through them. But the good news with Lilith being conjunct Mercury is it's sort of a way to liberate women who've been silenced, which is what I've used for paranormal production purposes. Now, Lilith conjunct Venus is beauty and power and sensuality as rebellion, which is also considered dark, right? When Venus is conjunct Lilith in the 10th house, like mine is, your looks, your style, and your presence carry an edge, okay? It's like people want me and they want to destroy me at the exact same time, especially if they can't have me. Noting back to this friend who I cut off, she's upset that she has no longer access to me. So now she's going to try to destroy my image or like make it look like I'm lying to everyone about my sexuality, which, by the way, this day and age, it wouldn't matter if someone are people still in the closet in 25? Like, you know, I don't know how she thinks she can hurt me by saying this, but this is a classic act on if she can't have me, she wants to destroy me. Which also, by the way, is proof that, you know, I made the right decision by ending the friendship, right? When you have Lilith and Venus in the 10th house, there's something subversive about the way you do makeup, the way you do beauty. It's very different. It's almost not passive, it's a ritual, right? It's an armor, which is sort of my goth glam stuff. It's art, and it becomes like the embodiment of you can look, but you're not going to understand it, right? Which is probably the alternative side. And specifically when women turn on me, and it's usually my friends, and having Aries in the 10th house, you're a trailblazer, right? So problem that I've had my whole life is I'll have female friends, and one day I'll just turn around and everyone looks exactly like me. They're dressing like me, they're talking like me, they're acting exactly like me, and that makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to walk around with a bunch of clones, but that's the problem with having Aries in the 10th house, is that people admire you even in your small circle. So when women turn on me, especially past friends, it's sort of envy that's wrapped in like their own disowned desires. Like they're not owning themselves, so they're trying to project because they're angry with me for whatever reason. Women get ugliest with me when I end a friendship or I end a co-work relationship. They get vile and come for me every time. It's wild. And even people that I don't know that well. And with Lilith conjunct Venus, you represent something that they're afraid to embody. Like people, I've even had friends say like, you just live so unapologetically, you're making your life, you're making your living just being yourself. How do you do it? And the answer is you just do, just embody it. You know, like whatever you want to do, it's not impossible. That's your highest timeline, whatever your goal is. And, you know, they get upset about it. And that's when I've even had women in the past like lie. Friends tell people in our group that I hit on them. And I am not an inappropriate person. And I'm straight. Like, I don't know how much... I mean, I think you guys know who my celebrity crush is at this point. I don't think I need to keep repeating it. But it's not about that. It's about my Lilith placement. It's almost like they're trying to reclaim power over me in a place where they didn't feel seen. And then when I have my part of fortune in my midhaven in the 10th house, that creates like... that's my destiny, right? Is to embody my Lilith, essentially. Part of fortune represents your greatest joy and your success in life. This could mean public success, fame, wealth, impact on the collective. And the only way I will find wealth is by unapologetically living myself, living as my truest form. And that can sometimes be taboo and breaking because Lilith has to be authentic in the 10th house. I have no other way around it. And for women, like think about Madonna, but like metaphysical, or, you know, Persephone, or, you know, it's a very rare, weird vibe. And it either makes people draw in or it makes people very uncomfortable. And then my midheaven there is basically building a career off of my rebellion. I mean, I think I've made it pretty clear at this point. Like, I've had all of these offers. I've had millions of dollars thrown at me to offer, you know, series for sex. And I've said, pack sand. I'm not here to be accepted by the mainstream. And that's my alternative goth side too, right? I'm here to reshape it and reform it and make it taboo and accepted by whoever wants to see me. But my biggest frustration my whole life has been when women, or men for that matter, claim I've hit on them or deflect, you know, my sexuality in some way. And it used to make me so uncomfortable when I was younger, because when you're younger, you don't really understand what's happening. You know what I mean? Like, and then for me, it just kept happening over and over again. I'm like, I'm not a hoe. I don't sleep around. I'm never inappropriate with people. How do I keep getting this finger pointed at me? Like I dress conservative almost, where I'm covered up. And I'm kind of at a point where I'm sick of it. Like, I'm tired of hiding myself to make other people comfortable. And that's what happens when you embody your Lilith. So me talking about my shadow, all the bad stuff in my Lilith placement, is basically Lilith in exile. And it's a syndrome that can actually happen within your chart, where you've had something deflected over and over again to where it makes you shy away from it versus embodying it. And this, for me, is like, society has a huge history, as we know, of banishing powerful, beautiful, intelligent, you know, seductress women. And they've just been labeled as like lesbians or crazy, right? Which I don't know why that's, once again, a put down anyways. But it's a modern version. And it basically means that your Lilith is working when people are calling you out on that. So for me, in a way, it's a good thing when people talk smack about my sexuality, because it means I'm embodying my highest self. And it means that they're intimidated, which unfortunately they just can't handle my energy. When people lose access to your energy, and this is like a general like rule across the board, especially women that have heavy Lilith placements, they will invent reasons to vilify you, because you refusing that, you know, claim disrupts the power balance that they were secretly relying on and sort of feeding off of it like an energy vampire. And you have to remember too that people will often project their own repressed feelings, especially like sexual feelings, onto you when they feel like they can't own them or embody them themselves. That includes things like envy, sexual curiosity, shame, or even the need to feel superior, and she feels rejected that I ended the friendship. And once again, that's Neptune in the 7th house, where I'm like, wait a second, we were just platonic friends. I have no interest in women. So this is once again those projections of Lilith wounds, that it's a witch wound, essentially. It's a witch wound. Lilith can be a witch wound. Women cutting other women down is a witch wound. You know, thousands of years ago, you know, even back to Salem, even pre-Salem, women were taught that survival meant submission, belonging meant silence, safety was aligning with male approval, and power was a threat, right? So if a woman shows up that's magnetic, powerful, beautiful, unapologetic in her own energy, she triggers the shit out of every woman that is being compliant over being liberated, because what they should be doing is healing their own shadow. And I hate to say it, but we have to remember with the witch wound that witch hunts were fueled by other women turning each other in. And we still see that happening in our society today with the internet. Social media, smear campaigns, gossip used as a weapon. And you know, you have to think, okay, so what do I do now with this Lilith wound? And we'll talk about your placement specifically. Women who lie about you and your Lilith placement aren't really evil. You have to think of them as very wounded. They've internalized the structure of the patriarchy and they're afraid to live unapologetically, and so now they're projecting. And there's really only one way to like outplay this witch wound. Refuse to play the role of the persecuted and refuse to play the role of the persecutor. So embodying your Lilith means speaking your truth anyways. Dress however you want. Tell your truth. Don't clarify and explain yourself just to make someone else comfortable. And be mysterious. Sometimes less said is more. Make them want more. Make them think you're this mysterious spiritual being. All right, I want to talk about Lilith in each house. I have a list, so I'm going to kind of read it to you guys. So remember, Lilith represents both shadow and power. It's up to you on which side you're going to represent. Okay, most of the time you've been dealing with your Lilith shadow forever. So learn how to turn the pain into power. All right. First house is identity. So this is important. So if you have Lilith in the first house, you're punished for simply existing. Others project lust or danger onto your presence. The backlash often is you're too intense, you're too sexual, or you're trying too hard. So how do you flip it? Walking embodiment of the sacred feminine rage and truth. You redefine what beauty means in your own world and don't listen to anyone else, and remove people who cut you down. The second house is your worth, which is also money. So if you have Lilith here, your shadow is you're taught to trade yourself for security, sexual shame, or financial struggle. The backlash is you're branded as greedy or tight budgeted, superficial or selfish. And the power is reclaiming the right to be abundant, like lose the lack mentality, reclaim your sensuality, and remember that you can self-serve your own world with money. You don't need to depend on others. Your third house is your voice. So the shadow is Lilith here is you're silenced, your words get twisted often, you're smart shamed or labeled as too much. The backlash is you get people that gaslight, gossip, and accusations. The power is just being the truth teller. Live your truth, live your authentic life. Your speech is literal spells, so just remember that. Your voice will liberate others. If you have Lilith in the fourth house of home, the shadow could be exiled from family, shame around roots or mother lineage, or you could feel like the black sheep or the runaway. Your power is redefining the generational curses that broke you. Make your home sacred again and make it on your own terms. Lilith in the fifth house is self-expression. So the shadow is shame and creativity, sexuality, or pleasure. So this is dark. This is really bad. There could be sexual trauma here. The backlash could be people calling you a slut, an attention seeker, a narcissist. Your power play is your joy is radical, right? You awaken others through things like art, sex, and self-expression. Don't be afraid of that. Your sixth house is work and service. So the shadow is maybe you were exploited, maybe you were overworked, undervalued, and possible body dysmorphia. The backlash is you were used and then tossed away. You were judged for your health, your habits, or even your appearance. The power is that you're the healer, you're the ritualist, you're the one who makes the mundane magical. The seventh house is relationships. This is shadow, is attracting intense, obsessive, or competitive partners, and sometimes you get blamed for their downfall. The backlash is you're considered a homewrecker, manipulative, or too needy. The power move here is show the mirror. Teach others how to love in depth and in truth. The eighth house is a dark placement too. It's intimacy and power. The shadow is you've had violated boundaries, sexual trauma, loss, and even betrayal. The backlash is feared or even fetishized. I wouldn't doubt that there were a lot of goth girls with Lilith in the eighth house. Branded dangerous, but your power is you're an alchemist. You turn pain into power. You're a witch, you're a death doula, and you are the phoenix rising. The ninth house is the belief system. So this could probably be religious trauma, shamed for spiritual gifts, exiled from religion or even academia. The backlash is you were weird or delusional. Your power is you're a spiritual philosopher. You might actually be in touch with higher realms. You need to be here to help expand others' minds. You're the one that now becomes the philosopher. You reveal divine truth through the act of rebellion. The 10th house, reputation. You're right here with me. Shadow. You're branded seductive, inappropriate. You're too much in public. Backlash is lies, rumors, career sabotage, and none of it's true. Your power is you're an unshakable icon. You're iconic, literally. Turns scandal into sovereignty. Teach others. Inspires with unapologetic leadership. Don't be afraid to speak your truth. The 11th house is community. The shadow is you've been outcasted and you've been betrayed by friends and family or any other group. The backlash is you rejected the movements that helped you build, okay? You're a future shaper. You rebuild community through your soul and you create spaces for the other misfits. The 12th house is the subconscious. If you have Lilith here, you're hunted by internal demons, isolation, maybe mental health, fear for your own magic, invisible, feeling misunderstood, or even called crazy. And your power is you're literally probably a medium, a mystic, an oracle. And your suffering and the dark nights you go through will become your service to others. How do you embody Lilith? Like actually, you don't fix her. You don't fix these things. You free her. Know your Lilith of placement. Understand where you're feared. Understand where you're fetishized or where you're silenced. Use creative spiritual outlets for that shadow. Reclaim your sensuality, your autonomy, your shadow. Understand that being shunned for things is often a sign that you're the black sheep or you're ahead of your time. Remember, the witch was never meant to be accepted. She was meant to be here to awaken the world. She was meant to be here to awaken the world. That reminds me too of just like with my Lilith placement in the 10th house. Even like this friend telling people I was a lesbian. It takes you back sometimes. Like I sat here for like a day and I was like, did I ever say something that would make her think that? Or like, did I ever do anything inappropriate? Like, she met my ex-husband, you know, like I have never been inappropriate. I've never said anything. And that's the Lilith wound, is it makes you immediately want to blame yourself. And you have to be like, wait a second. No, that's not what went down. That's not what happened. I'm being put in exile again for this shadow because this is the other person's projection of themselves and I'm the mirror. Lilith is not the villain. She is the mirror. She shows us what the patriarchy fears because unfortunately women have instilled this fear as well because they're so used to living in this generational trauma since Salem. Lilith is what the shadow hides, but you can feel your most empowerment if you act like no one's watching and stop apologizing. All right, that's Lilith. That's all I got for you. I think this is a really cool placement. And here's the thing I've learned about my Lilith placement too, is like, it's never going to go away. And I have a little bit of fear, like the bigger that I get, that weird shit's going to be said about me. I can't control what other people say. It's weird because like after my mom's death and her murder, I really have no fucks, if I'm being honest with you. Like nothing can ever hurt me the way that did. You know what I mean? So you just kind of have to like let people talk their smack if they are wanting to, like, is it a claim to fame or something? Their last ditch effort to sort of grab onto your energy. It's kind of like, what's that term? I'm looking at this past friend, kind of like a monitoring spirit. Do you know what that is? It's kind of like people that just copy everything you do and watch everything you do. And that was the problem with this, is that she didn't want to take accountability for the way the friendship ended. Like, she really screwed me over in a lot of different ways. So anyway, sometimes friends aren't friends, they're enemies. Sometimes they're monitoring spirits. But please just remember to embody your Lilith and do research on it because it's fascinating how much it will change your life. Love you guys. Good night.